umasixoxa nothi ngithi asinazo iy'kole linguistics, but nabo bayasidinga futhi because important is with us. So, but that is why we had a session with colleagues. Local is partly influenced by a session we had towards the end of last year at Eband. Then we decided as a branch which city, these are the focus areas at least for 2024. And I was tempted at a certain point when we were talking with colleagues to say we may see some of these focus areas shifted, covering about 3 years, or some of them even going towards 5 years. The reason, Dr. Clark, is siyayithanda thina le nto yokuhlala njalo minyaka sipilele. Kanti ukuba sihlale kanye sipilele bese sihlala kumele iminyaka sivuka ama-plans ethu sikuthi sihambe safika bese siyabona ukuthi yini le esingayishintsha ukuthi siyishintshe. On a lighter note, bekungekho unkosiyana lezi isho kodwa ngiyacabanga ukuthi le nto ngabenza esekhanda. Nosizexoxosa. I've seen part of your manual here. Talking about top management, I will give you a brief. Unfortunately, is optimal. So, city from Aberdeen in an hour is quite achieved but it is well covered. But so was the issues, colleagues. Finally, see talk no ideas planning meeting. There's a meeting function a branch but so but we know this is just how the presentation is structured, and so that you don't feel intimidated. The presentation comes into a number of slides, but I will only be talking to slides. I will not be going through each and every word and each and every line that is there. We are beginning as a branch by reminding everybody that we started in our 2023 by making sure that we focus on ECD. And the focus on ECD was in the realization that that is where the learning begins for each and every child in South Africa. But we are now saying the focus this year is on GET. And while we focused last year on ECD, we did not lose sight of FET, the support that was required for FET, especially grade 12. This year, our focus is on GET, but the main focus will also be how do we make sure that our learners pass. I know all of us around the table, sinewali, siyalala, siyavuka, siyabuza ukuthi siyapasa annual 2023. Sonke asibelewali until next week. Sibone ukuthi senze njani. Kodwa ukuze singafeyili, asithi masuqala u-2024, sithi sifocusa ku-GET kodwa asizukukhohlwa ku-grade 12. The kind of support that is important. Because as a province, in observation yami, sesingakhulelwa manje bangathiwa sishoda phansi. Neka asisajwayele ukushoda phansi, sesijwayele ukushoda phezulu. So kufanele-ke in everything and anything that we are doing, focus on GET. What we are doing by building GET or ECD is to build a good foundation. Bese sithi neke sibakhohlwe kodwa laba futhi ngoba ibona esiqhosha ngabo. Last week, civil standardization, provinces were saying to us, I'm told I'm playing this is the guys. Actually, they go by the position here in my chat. All of them, one by one, Africa, based on any position here, but they are in my chat. So, see, our team and that position So we are then saying, while in 2024 focusing on GET, we will not also lose sight of ECD. There is great work that we did by ECD, but Askara way by ECD. Like Undu was asking, is the issue their ownership. ka-GBT, ka-ECD. Ubaba uSithole was correct ukuthi while impepukile ama-ECD standards ukhona ngeke sikwazi ukwazi because solekelela kuphela lana esiwa-ownayo kodwa lana owna uMazibuko lana owna uZwane ngeke sikwazi ukwazi. Unfortunately, public mangabe ithi impepukile i-ECD center ayikwazi ukwehlukanisa ukuthi le eyakwaZwane noma eyakwaZwane. And as we begin 2024, colleagues, I'm just reminding you of these goals. These goals, colleagues, are taking us through the end of this current administration, which is ending sometime this year. These goals, colleagues, are important because it is through these goals where we are saying, let us focus throughout the system. Let us make sure that we are worried about the learner as the learner enters into the ECD space and up to grade 12. And we are then saying there are subjects that the current administration is worried about, your mathematics and languages. So as we begin our 2024, just as a reminder, these are the goals. We're not talking about objectives here because myself and yourself, we are going to sit down and talk about the objectives. When we talk about the 10 focus areas, this one is the first focus area, assessment. If colleagues will want to win, if colleagues will want to displace your Free State and your Gauteng in the positions that they had in terms of 2022, we must do better in terms of assessment. But when we talk about assessment, when we talk about how do we make use of assessment for formative purposes, how does assessment inform the teaching in the classroom? How does assessment inform the learning in the classroom? What is now referred to as assessment for learning? So as a branch, and we are inviting all of us that in 2024, let us begin to focus on assessment. Let us try to train our teachers about the importance of assessment. They must understand the principles of assessment. They must understand the moderation and the importance of moderation in terms of assessment. And we need to spend a lot of our time in terms of our PLCs talking about assessment. If our teachers, colleagues can assess at a correct standard and use all the principles that are important in terms of assessment, we will not have a worry as to how our learners are going to be performing come end of the year when they write the NSC examination. This assessment will also influence our curriculum coverage. We need to agree as a system that our learners, they don't do well end of the year because curriculum was not covered. Curriculum was not covered because assessment was not done in a correct manner. Then that is going to be one of our main focus come 2024. When we form PLCs and we support PLCs, when we form subject committees and support them, when we form clusters and support them, let us ensure that they focus on assessment. So that when you walk into each and every school as a subject advisor, as a second manager, you must be worried about the standard of assessment in terms of what is happening in the school. The head of department normally talks about standardized assessment. This is how the performing schools are winning the battle. They win it at assessment level. Once you win it at assessment level, then you can also win it at the curriculum coverage level. So when we talk about assessment, let us also be worried about common assessment, your common test program. Western KFC, they were asking us how are we running our common test program. And they were shaking their head and they were saying they can't afford to do this. They were saying in their own words, it's a massive job. But we know as KZN, this is one of our secret weapons. You standardize the assessment, you have the common assessment, even if you eliminate the common assessment. But once you are sure that the assessment is standardized, then you are sure to win. Then the second, I'm talking about these are I said there are 10. The second one is a mathematics strategy, which we started last year. We agreed that it is a 5-year plan. It started in 2023, it is ending in 2027. We need to go back and focus on the mathematics strategy. As a product of the seminar that we had our own plan as to how we support mathematics. We support mathematics through our system, starting with the ECD. Let us begin by saying, what is the program, what is the approach of teaching mathematics that our teachers can have? And somewhere in this, you will find me advising. When I was speaking to colleagues at ECD, they were talking about Maths Up as an approach. When I was talking to colleagues at GT, they were talking about teaching mathematics for understanding. And in this scenario, as a province, asinayo i-common program yokuthi mathematics, masithi uthisha we-mathematics wase-KZN ufundisa kanjani mathematics asinayo. That is where we need to go. That is where we need to go. Hence, I am proposing your Maths Up for ECD, your teaching mathematics for understanding for DAT, and colleagues that know better in the space of mathematics will guide us as to what program and what approach can be used for FET. I can tell you, colleagues, as long as Singenayo will approach a uniform, as long as Singenayo will program a uniform, siyaba support teacher, yes, but owasithumela ubasupporta ngendlela yakhe as compared to owasebenza naye ubasupporta ngendlela yakhe. And I'm saying let us shape up in terms of mathematics. We already have a math strategy, but let us then propose. And out of this meeting, let us come up with a proposal. We need to agree. It cannot take 1 year to train all our teachers to teach mathematics in a common approach. Let us then say, within the space up to 2027, what is it that we give as a weapon to our teachers? These are the reasons why mathematics is poorly performed. These are the reasons that come from you from meeting Sasina Ebali. When we talk about the non-performance of mathematics, the Pumago Foundation phase. The non-performance of mathematics, the Pumago ECD. So when we want to fight this scourge of non-performance in mathematics, but one other thing is to fight with mathematics, the teacher turnover. The one again is you are able to teach your sheet of Mazibuko naye banking center. And the Lolo Kishwa will attain persisting. Best foward to Mazibuko, Sebesas Lash, some Faras Pamakan, or was this pass only because Secretary Mazibuko will tie banking center. So this is a 5-year plan, but for us to be able to move on a 5-year plan, let us talk about resources. The amount of resources that we need is for us to drive this plan in terms of mathematics. Let us also accept imali ayiko, but what is it that we can afford? Some of these things in terms of the strategy we can afford without any cost to us. But what is also important is that we need to support one another, IDS supported by curriculum, so that we can do better in mathematics. When we talk about this strategy, as a reminder, we want to increase the number of learners that are doing mathematics, especially at the FET level. While we want to increase the number of learners doing mathematics at FET level, we also want to increase the pass percentage of mathematics at FET.